Hello, boys and girls. Well, mostly boys. I'm a frog, and today we're talking about Halo Combat Evolved. Halo C's legendary difficulty is really tough, and today, of its many levels, we'll be attempting to answer the question, which Halo C level is the toughest? To do this, we'll go through each level in order, evaluate its difficulty, and then come up with a final list at the end. And to be clear, unless I explicitly say otherwise when I talk about specifics of levels like, there are 2 dropships, or 4 elites spawn here, I'm referring to how they play on legendary. Obviously, if I came on here and said Pillar of Autumn is the toughest level, I'd be objectively wrong, but this is still somewhat subjective because there are things that might be tough for me that aren't for you and vice versa. So be sure to let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Without further ado though, let's start off with the Pillar of Autumn. As I said, I'm not listing these easiest to hardest, but it just so happens that the easiest level in the game is also the first. And actually, it doesn't just happen to be that way, that's definitely intentional. There are no jackals or hunters, Pillar of Autumn is just grunts and elites. You get a magnum and an assault rifle right as the combat starts, which on lower difficulties are all you need to mop up. The plasma pistol is unironically one of the best weapons in the entire game, and you should trade out the assault rifle for it, but you can still easily make it through PoA with just the assault rifle and magnum. There are plasma grenades all over the place on heroic and legendary, and you can pretty much just spam them the entire level. This level is also very generous, giving you 4 overshields in total, and of course, it's not very long at all. When I was a kid, this was a level I could actually beat on legendary before getting my teeth kicked in the next level, Halo. So yeah, not much else to talk about. Pillar of Autumn is definitely the easiest, and I don't think it's debatable. Halo is a lot more manageable after you get the Warthog, but the first half of this level really is what separates people who should be playing on legendary and those who probably aren't ready for it yet. Specifically the wave defense with the Marines. If you handle this the wrong way, you'll be in for a bad time. The second half of Halo isn't that bad, partly because of the Warthog, but mostly the sniper. I used to trade out the Magnum for the sniper and keep the assault rifle. That's a mistake. Keep the Magnum. Snipe the elites, clean up everything else with the Magnum, and you're good. Of the 3 holdout sections, the cliff edge is probably the hardest because everything's already spawned in and you have to clear everything out. In the rubble, you can run over every enemy as they get out of the dropships, and at the head of the river, some are spawned in and the rest, again, you can get as they're dropped off. So Halo is definitely a step up from Pillar of Autumn, but if you're familiar with the game, it's not too bad. Truth and Reconciliation is a level that I know many people watching this will say is the hardest level in the game. It definitely is one of them for sure. The lift fight is really hard. There are a bunch of enemies at the lift when you get to it, another dropship, and then 8 waves of enemies that come down the lift, and all of this is on the same checkpoint. Once you get inside the ship, you have another ridiculous wave fight, this time 10 waves. On Heroic, some of these waves will randomly spawn stealth elites, and on Legendary, some will randomly spawn gold elites. And again, this wave fight is all on one checkpoint. The hangar fight is another difficult section that has a ton of enemies coming at you from all directions while you wait for Cortana to open a door. And then the last really difficult section, I would say, is the escort mission at the end with Keys. It really does suck. The best strategy is to rush ahead and clear everything so Keys isn't tempted to shoot or throw any grenades because he will kill himself. Truth and Reconciliation is a very hard level. However, there is one element that keeps me from just coming out and saying definitively without question that it's the hardest level. This element is the sniper rifle. I cannot emphasize this point enough. This level would be so much harder without the sniper. Not only that you have a sniper, but that there's ammo all over the place. You can carry the sniper, a power weapon, throughout the entire level. The sniper is harder to use than the Magnum for sure, but the difference is the sniper does way more damage, and unlike the Magnum, it shoots straight, meaning once you get good with the sniper, it's not even a contest which is better. So I'm not saying that Truth and Reconciliation isn't a hard level, it absolutely is. I am saying that you can make this level a lot easier on yourself just by getting better with the sniper. In terms of difficulty, Silent Cartographer is definitely a step back from Truth and Reconciliation. It's shorter, you have a Warthog that can help you clear enemies, and whereas in TNR I listed 4 difficult sections, in SC there really aren't any. I think the hardest part of the level is probably the ending fight against 6 stealth elites, but the rest of the level go Magnum and Plasma Pistol and you're good. I don't have that much else to say about Silent Cartographer, so I will just say that it's a fantastic level. Great work, Jamie. Assault in the Control Room is a really interesting mission to try to place, because like with Silent Cartographer, there's really not any super hard sections. The difference though is that SC is short and AOTCR is probably the longest level in the entire game. The hardest part of it, especially later on, is honestly just managing ammo. Whereas on Truth and Reconciliation, you're loaded up the entire time, on this level you fight even more enemies and ammo is sparser. Again, especially in the second half of the level. Honestly, the toughest single part of the whole mission for me is the tank section. The CU tank is not very good and I am not very good at driving it. I do think this is one of 2 levels that people look past when talking about difficult levels because it does have a trick that lets you skip basically everything, but absent that trick, yeah, this level would suck to speedrun. But beyond that, really fun level, not too difficult, just really, really long. I don't know what the consensus on 343 Guilty Spark will be. To me, I think it's hands down one of the easiest levels in the whole game. There are no elites, the flood you encounter in the first half don't have weapons yet, and after you descend further down in the facility, there's an overshield and an active camo that make getting a shotgun off of one of them pretty easy. I will say, one thing that could make me biased is that I've already played and beaten C many times. I remember playing this for the first time as a kid and being terrified. And if you're a new player who's never encountered the flood before, I could see how you might get overwhelmed and think this is a tricky level. The other thing besides just the flood is the facility's interior, where all the rooms pretty much look the same and it's easy to get lost. Whereas if you're an experienced player, you already know how to deal with the flood and where to go. The toughest part of 343 Guilty Spark is the ending when you're back in the swamp and there are flood ambushing you from all sides and you get to the structure and you have to hold out. Otherwise, this is mostly just an introductory level to the flood, and I don't think it's that tough relative to the rest of the game. The library. Oh boy, the best level in the game. I'm not going to say that this level is impossible on Legendary if you don't get a shotgun, because I beat it without firing a single shot for a video in the past, but the opening section until you get a shotgun is very hard. And if at any point you run out of shotgun ammo, the library gets really, really hard. But a lot of what makes players think this level is impossible, in my opinion, is just not knowing how to approach it. In pretty much every corridor, you can literally just run past everything, which I actually think was somewhat intentional, because if you do take it slow and try to kill all the flood in each area, their spawners go on and on and on. So I think you really are supposed to take a run and gun attitude, and if you do, the level becomes a lot easier. However, there are sections of the library where you have to wait for a door to open while hordes of flood come at you. On Legendary, the longest one of these door holdouts is 90 seconds long, which is, frankly, absurd. And then beyond all of that, the library is just a really long level. By the end of it, you're ready to never fight the flood again. Even with what I said about running and gunning, it's definitely still one of the hardest levels in the game. What better way to follow up a tough level than with another tough level like 2 Betrayals? Prior to the strat Banshee had a level that lets you fly through walls, 2 Betrayals was considered the hardest CE level to speedrun and had a few of the toughest rooms in the entire game. One was literally called the Hell Room. For me, when I was first trying to get the Goat Roped achievement for beating CE on Legendary in under 3 hours, my time on this level was over half an hour because I didn't want to learn the Banshee trick, and the classic speedrun route on this level is ridiculous. 2 Betrayals is the first multi-faction level of the game where you're fighting the Covenant, the Flood, and Sentinels. And in these encounters, there's a ton of enemies. I would guess this has the most enemies per encounter in the game, not counting infection forms. It gets really hectic. 2 Betrayals also, obviously, uses the same map as Assault in the Control Room, so it's another one that's really long. There's many tough spots in this level, but if I had to pick just one as the toughest, I would say the second bridge, where there's 2 Banshees overhead and a whole bunch of flood that are all focused on you, including a couple rocket flood. 2 Betrayals, really good level, also really tough. Keys, like Assault in the Control Room, I think is overlooked for its difficulty because of the old shield bump trick and now the flood bump that lets you skip pretty much the entire mission and beat it in just a couple minutes. If you do play this level full path, I think it has arguably the toughest set of encounters in the entire game. However, on the flip side, it's also pretty short. In my old Halo Deathless video where I played levels full path on Legendary without dying, I beat Keys in about 23 minutes, which included like 5 minutes at the very end where I took my time and killed every single elite guarding the Banshees. Like 2 Betrayals, this mission also gets pretty hectic. You're running through a Covenant ship while the Flood and Surviving Covenant battle it out, and like 2 Betrayals again, there's a ton of each. It's also your introduction to Spec Ops Covenant, which are super tough, and the Grunts carry fuel rod guns, which love to cause chain reactions with grenades on the ground. The toughest part of this level, in my opinion, is the entirety of the ground combat after you jump out of the ship. The Flood seemingly never stop coming, there's carriers blowing up everywhere, and you have the Covenant to worry about too. Really difficult stuff. In terms of difficulty, the Maw is actually kind of anticlimactic. The 3 previous levels are all really tough, whereas this level feels like a step down and a breather in comparison. Don't get me wrong, I'm not talking about the quality of the Maw because it's fantastic, I just don't think it's nearly as hard as Library, 2 Betrayals, or Keys. One thing it does have going for it that the other levels don't is that the entirety of the Covenant you fight on this level are Spec Ops, which again are a lot tougher than the regular Covenant, especially the Elites. There aren't as many multi-faction fights on the Maw. For the most part, they're separated out, which also means there aren't as many enemies in your face at once. There are hectic sections for sure, like the cryo room and the blown up corridor after it, but not as much as Keys and 2 Betrayals. The hardest part of the Maw, in my opinion, is the reactor room. I remember this causing me a ton of trouble when I was younger. What ended that for me was finding out that you can actually do 2 reactors at once. The thing about this room is that the longer you stay in it, the enemies spawn at an increased rate, so going slow actually makes it way harder. When you're able to get all 4 reactors almost immediately, it becomes pretty easy. And then the Warthog run. I remember being really scared about being too slow and getting blown up, but as I've shown on this channel before, I am not a good Warthog driver, yet I can complete the Warthog run with more than enough time left on the clock. Really good level, great way to close the game, definitely not the hardest level though. I talked about each level and my thoughts on their respective difficulties, so how would I rank them in terms of difficulty? From easiest to hardest, I would say number 10, Pillar of Autumn, number 9, 343 Guilty Spark, number 8, Halo, number 7, The Silent Cartographer, number 6, The Maw, number 5, Assault in the Control Room, number 4, Truth and Reconciliation, number 3, Keys, number 2, The Library, and number 1, 2 Betrayals. So that's my list. Tell me what you agree or disagree with in the comments, and feel free to give me your rankings. Halo C is a really tough game, especially on Legendary, but if you'd like to see how I beat all these levels on Legendary in under 90 minutes, click the video on screen. I'll catch you next time.